Hi, I'm Wade from Thoroughbred Diesel, and today we're going to be installing the S&S Diesel CP4 bypass on a 2021 Ford F-350. Today, folks, we're going to be installing a CP4 bypass kit on a 2021 Ford with 6.7 Power Stroke. The CP4 bypass kit is one of the main things that you can do to a 6.7 Power Stroke to protect you from CP4 failures on your truck. Now, there are two different style of platforms, but one part number in the S&S Diesel CP4 bypass kit. So your 11 to 19 trucks, the installation is going to be a little bit different, and we are working right now to try to find a truck to do that installation on. The 20 and up trucks are a different set of installations. They have different upper and lower intake manifolds, but we are going to show you both trucks, but this video is for the 2020 and up trucks. Now, the CP4 bypass kit, the S&S Diesel CP4 bypass kit includes a return filter inside of the kit. And what that does, long story short, you have a CP4 failure. The debris from the CP4 failure passes through the return filter kit. It catches it before it gets to the tank. Then the fuel that comes from the tank that's redelivered to the CP4 has been triple filtered. The CP4 bypass kit, the return filter, filters it before it goes to the tank. The fuel delivered from the tank goes through the frame filter, then it goes through the engine filter, and then is delivered to the CP4. But it's safe fuel because of this metering valve block. What this metering valve block does, this is for the CP4's FCA, this blocks off the fuel flow coming from the bottom of the pump, and this gets us the good clean fuel flow coming from your tank that has been filtered now 3 times, delivering it to the CP4. So just a really good kit. Cheap insurance, $400 here will save you $4,000. So let's go ahead and get started with our installation. So just an overview of what we're doing here. So we're going to have to get to our CP4 pump. Our CP4 is right smack in the middle of the engine valley. And to get to that, we will have to remove our upper intake plenum, our lower intake, and our lower intake plenum. That's the main 2 things that you have to remove to get to the CP4. Now, in preparation of that, you're going to have to make yourself a pathway for the upper and the lower plenum to come out. So in order for that to happen, you're going to have to remove the secondary filter. You're going to have to remove the hot side intercooler pipe. You're going to have to remove the cold side intercooler pipe. So all of that being said, a couple of ancillary things that have to be done as well to prepare for that, to prepare for the preparing. The degas bottle line will come off, our vacuum line is going to come off, and we're going to lay everything out of our way there. So we're just going to go ahead and get through it. Before I started the job, I isolated the negatives, the grounds on both of the batteries, just to keep from having any problems there. Hopefully not to set any code. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go after the vacuum line. Vacuum line has got a quick connect here, and it also has a quick connect right here going down to the vacuum pump. They're easy to disconnect. The white connectors, they've got a black center to them, so you just push on the black portion of it, and it's going to release a little bit of vacuum there. And they're both got a couple of keepers that have it on this degas bottle line, and then you'll want to just go ahead and remove it from your lower vacuum connection, same style, and then you can sit that out of your way. Next, I go ahead and start working on the degas lines. Now, I don't know if there's any technical truth to what I'm getting ready to tell you, but I feel like the keepers that Ford has gone to have gotten more brittle. It seems like these newer ones, they break even more than the old ones did. Maybe it's just my imagination. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pinch off the degas bottle line, and then I'll let a little pressure out of the degas bottle so we don't have coolant everywhere. May have done that in reverse, honestly. May needed to let the pressure off out of the line and then pinch it off. But I'm going to pinch it off there just to keep from having a mess. And then I'm going to disconnect it here at the bottle. move my pinch tool. And then I'll move my clamp a little farther. Finally broke free. Truck has got 10,000 miles on it. I already got stuck coolant lines. Well, so you lose a little bit of coolant there. So as I go around, I'll be just looking for all of the coolant line hold downs, and I will get those. So just be gentle here again. Try to rock those back and forth on the push pins and get those out. And then you can get a little bit more of that out. It'll come out of this keeper here, and then you've got one more at the lower plenum. You want to start that with your flat side, and then just work it back and forth. And there you go. And the rest of that out, and then just flop your coolant line over out of your way. We're going to remove the air intake inlet going to the lower intake manifold here. So we're just going to go ahead and loosen up both of our worm drive clamps here, 7 metrics on these. Then we'll disconnect from the air box, and then we will disconnect from the lower air intake, and then go ahead and remove that. All right, next thing that we want to do is we want to disconnect the temperature sensor coming from the EGR pipe right here. So as you can see, it is on, it has a standard on the lower intake manifold here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop that off. And once we get that loose, that gives us access to the little safety latch on here. So we can push that out just like so, and then disconnect the temp sensor like so. So now once that is done, then you can bring the EGR, or I'm sorry, the EGR tube wire completely out, and then we will just go ahead and begin to remove the EGR. Ford tells you to replace these gaskets. This is these gaskets that are on this EGR pipe. They this is a brand new truck. We're going to reuse these. These are our steel gaskets, so they should be just fine. But the choice is up to you on that, whether you want to replace those or not. So if you got a low mileage truck like what we're working on today, I think you're going to be just fine. This is a really, really good time to have a swivel 8 metric socket to go ahead and work those out. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go ahead and begin removing these bolts. You've got 2 8 metrics here, and then 2 8 metrics right here. Seals gasket between the pipe and the manifold. Just make sure that you get those out as you're going. So we will go ahead and begin removing those bolts. All right, so got our last bolt out of our EGR pipe here. Then we're just going to go ahead and bring the whole assembly out. Like I said, watch for your gaskets here. These are totally reusable. Like I said, this truck's pretty low mileage, so we're in pretty good shape there. All right, we're going to go ahead and start working on our cold side intercooler tube here. So we will have to remove it at the air to water cooler down here and completely get it out. The reason why we're doing that is we like to take the throttle valve off. And the reason why we like to take the throttle valve off is because the upper intake manifold, when you go to remove it, it can be a bear right here at this plastic tab. So a lot to do there for just one little old thing. But so we'll start with our electrical connectors. There's one standard that holds this, that is connected to the intercooler connection. And we'll just go ahead and pop that pin out. Then we will remove our electrical connector right there. And then we're going to go after our intercooler connection. Now the intercooler connection has the spring-loaded clip on it. And this one's pretty loose, so you can about get it with your finger. But you just take that ring and start moving it off of there. Like so. You might need to start with the ear on the bottom. And then of course my tube is turned in a way that makes it very difficult, of course, because we're filming today. So that should have it done. All right, once you get that out, you just push that ring back to where it's out of your way. And then at the bottom of the air cooler, you have a 7 metric down there, and we will remove that real quick. And then we'll come back and show you taking the intercooler pipe off. All right, so breaking it loose from the air to water cooler, we just keep working with it and then pull straight out and bring the intercooler tube straight out. So small 1/4-inch drive extension, and what we're doing is we're going after the throttle valve right now. And to get the throttle valve off, you have to first undo the electrical connection. There will be a clip at the bottom. And as always, we just pop the red tab out and then pull the electrical connection off. There are 4 8mm bolts around the throttle valve, so we'll go ahead and buzz them off. And this extension will let you get to everything just fine. I suggest taking the bottom 2 out, and then removing your top 2, so you can, last bolt you take out is one you can have easy access to. So I jumped up here this morning without my power ratchet, so not gonna make you suffer through that. We'll cut in again, show you taking the throttle valve off. So as you get your bolts out, when you get to your 2 tops, what I do is I just turn the throttle valve to where the gasket comes up, because you are going to be reusing it. And when I take my last bolt out, of course I'm holding both the throttle valve and the gasket so that I don't drop the gasket. So while you've got your throttle valve out, this is a really good time to clean it, because sometimes here, look at me, it'll be sooted up pretty bad. So you just want to clean all the soot out of it that you can before you put it back on. So it's just one less thing to go through your intake there, and then the gasket is reusable. All right, we're going to take the hot side intercooler pipe off now. First off, just go ahead and normal worm drive clamp down here at the air to water, but the outlet on the turbo is a little bit different, so we're going to show you that. Loosen this up here. Okay. At the turbo has got the spring clamps, and spring clamps, all you've got to do with them is just get your pick on the high side of it and then just start rolling it around, pushing it around, and eventually that clip will come up and it will pop into a service position, for lack of a better word. It's going to stay up there. Don't get too forceful on these, because they are in a little plastic pocket there. Where's that? I'll probably just leave that pick in there so I don't have another one fall down on me. You'll hear that. So now we'll just pull back and dislodge it. Take your picks out like so. Get it away from the turbo there. And then we can start working on the cooler end of it. All right, I got the boot loosened up at the cooler. We can go ahead and pop it off here. Then pull your hot side pipe directly out. The crankcase filter comes into the lower intake manifold, but we've got to get this pipe separated from the lower intake manifold. Now, Ford instructions will tell you when you're removing the lower intake manifold, you're going to have to put a new crankcase filter on here. Our crankcase filter is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But we've just got to get this to where we can bring this out. So you can do this a couple different ways. If your hose is very brittle, you could cut the hose and put an extension in there, or just put a splice in it, no problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to disconnect the factory connection here. And like I said, this is designed to be destroyed, and then you get a new CCV filter. When you pop your new one back on, that's your last time. So we're not going to do that. I'm going to show you how to take this off here. So first thing that you're going to want to do is at the lower intake manifold side of the CCV tube here, you're just going to want to make a cut with a good sharp razor blade in this rubber sheeting or rubber coating, rubber sheath that is over it. And then this is going to give you access to, once you do that, it's going to give you access to the quick clips on here. And again, this is, it tells you in the instructions, you break these to remove them. What we like to do is to there's 3 of these. They're little metal tabs, and you'll see them. I think Adam's probably got a pretty good view of it there. What we're going to do is we're just going to pop them up and put toothpicks underneath of them to hold them. So the way you do that, let me try to get this to where you can see it, is here's your little connectors right here. And again, these are, they're just little plastic tabs here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get something underneath of them to get them started up, like so. Okay, and they're pretty stout, so don't lose all your confidence here. And all you do is just use your tool to where that you can. It's hard to do when you're trying to keep your hands out of the reach of the camera too. Oh. So you can see right there, see how we got the toothpick underneath of it, and then that keeps this up. You can put a zip tie underneath of there if you want to too. But the toothpick works just the same. So we're going to go around this, and we're going to get the other 2 dislodged, and then we'll show you bringing it off. So 2 of the ears right here, you can see we've got toothpicks underneath of. Then you just turn the pipe over to your 3rd connector. Okay. Then get a tool underneath of it to dislodge it, and boom, the CCV pipe comes off. Pop your toothpicks out, and you can totally reuse it and lay it out of your way there. All right, we're going to work towards getting our fuel canister out. So we're going to take our fuel filter out first. So you want to get something in here to catch fuel, and then our injector pressure line, with the green clip on it. What we're doing here is we're just pulling back on the ears and then pushing up with it at the same time. It seems like each one of these different Ford clips has kind of got a different way that they come off. So there's that one. There's going to be a little bit of residual fuel in here, so just have something there to catch it. And then I do my next outside one, which is our from the tank fuel. So same thing there. The little white legs, we just pull both of them back, and it'll go so far, and then it can come out. And then our middle one, that kind of gives you a little bit better access on it. And then this one, you're going to actually pinch the legs in on the bottom of the clip and then push it up. So if you change your fuel filter before, this isn't going to be any problem for you right here. All right. So this lets us just turn our filter, and I need the rag to go with it. And then we can lift our fuel filter out. All right, it's time to remove the fuel bowl right here. So removing the fuel bowl, there are 4 8 metric nuts that are on here, or bolts that are on here. The first one is the line clamp. The line clamp bolt is going to give you access to the bottom bolt here. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not, but it's right underneath the fuel feed line that we'll be working on here in just a little while. And then the right side of the cup, there's one here. And then at the very, very back, there's one right here. So these are the 4 bolts that it takes to remove this cup. The cup has to come out so that you have access to get the upper intake runner out. So we're not going to make you suffer through this. Plus we had to shoot this on a GoPro shot. So we'll get all 4 of these bolts out and then we'll show you the cup coming out. Okay, this fuel filter holder coming out here. To bring this out with your bolt out of the fuel line, it gives you access to be able to pull the fuel supply line for the CP4, just to give you enough slack to be able to work on this bolt underneath of it, and also to get the canister out. I just leave the bolt in the canister and then just pick the canister up. Just pick the canister up and then kind of turn it, and then it'll come right out. So no big deal there. You have the only time on the short bolt, I want to show you this, the only short bolt that's in this is the one that holds the low side lines to it, and then the rest of them are all the 3 long 8 metric bolts. So now we've got our fuel filter canister out. We're going to finish up on this side of the truck. All right, now we're going to be kind of working on the passenger side of the engine. What we've got to do here is we've got to get this wiring harness here off and out of the way, and then we're pretty much at the intake bolts. We'll be doing this engine dipstick and back on the other side. I came over here too soon. We're going back to the other side for just a second, but for now we're going to go ahead and get the cover off the map. There's 2 8 metric bolts that hold this little metal cover down, and it will not clear with the cover on it. So you want to take the cover off. It makes getting the harness off of the map sensor easier as well. So we're going to pull that bolt out, and then underneath of the cowl here is the other one. 8 metric ratcheting wrench is your friend. Last bolt on the cover, and out she comes. That gets us access to the harness here. So we just go ahead and pop the lock back, and then remove the harness there. So you've got a little a holder on the harness here. I have to get them a new holder. There's that, and then there's a hold down on one of the bolts here. So I just take a pair of pliers and open them up on the wide setting, and then that lets you grab the standard there and just pull it straight up, and then that gets your harness out of the way. So with that out of the way, we're going to come back over to the driver's side and show you the dipstick. Next thing we're going after is the dipstick. So there is a 10 metric nut, and there is also a 10 metric bolt that secure the dipstick to the intake plenum here. So we're just going to remove both of those fasteners, and then that's going to give us the ability to push the dipstick out of our way so that we can go ahead and begin the process of taking the intake bolts out to pull the intake on out. So there's nut off of this stud here, and then we will bring the bolt out of the back here, kind of sideways.
All right, and then with this, what you'll be doing is then you'll just be picking the dipstick up and off of the stud and laying it over. And then that's going to give you plenty enough clearance to get back to this stud at the intake manifold. And then there are actually 4 bolts that hold this to the intake plenum, but we'll talk about that here in just a second. All right, so we're going to go after our intake bolts here. So first one, we've got this metric 12 stud that are on the back, and we'll go ahead and pop this one out. I need to get myself a new spot here. So there'll be a metric 12 here, and actually what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to show you where the rest of these are. So let me get this one out. All right. I'll just go ahead and set those to where I know that they can come out with clearance. But there is an 8 metric bolt here, 8 metric bolt there, and then 1 on the back. There's different combinations that you're going to use here. There's no wrong way to do this. So here's a 10 or 8 metric tall or deep well, and then I'll get an extension to do the couple of back ones. So it's really nothing that I can point you in the direction of. You just kind of got to play with the different extensions that you have to get them all out, but just be careful of what you're working around here and go through and get your bolts out. So we'll do the driver's side, pretty straightforward, and then we're going to move over and show you on the passenger side and show you if there's any tricks or tips on that side for you. All right, showing you the bolts on the intake, or the passenger side of the intake. Now there is 8 metric bolt here. Then there is a 8 metric stud right here. Now, then way back there in the back, you can just kind of barely see it. I'll point to it with my socket. There's another 8 metric bolt here, and then directly behind that, and you won't be able to see it in this shot, there's another 8 metric bolt. There's nothing special about these bolts. I will tell you that the bolts do have seals around them inside the intake. I should have mentioned that on the other side. You can pull these up and out of your way, and it will hold the bolts just fine for you. So however you want to do that, if you pull them out, you want to make sure that the seals don't come out, and then when you put the bolts back in, that they don't drive through the intake. So just a little bit of caution with that. But now it's time to go after these intake bolts. So now we've got all the driver's side off, and this will give us the passenger side. I'm already here on the GoPro, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you another shot here of what we're after. This plastic piece right here is our lower intake plenum. Our lower intake plenum is held on by obviously the clamp that is at the turbo, and I will point to that right here. That is 8 metric as well. And then there are 3 10 metric bolts out here, 1, 2, and then another one over here at the closest to the throttle valve. All of these bolts will come out, and then we're going to bring the lower intake and the upper intake out together as best we can, clearing everything. So Adam's going to get set up for the next shot, showing us everything there. But for right now, we are after our 4 bolts on the passenger side of the intake manifold. Different sockets to use here. I'm sorry, I told you that the clamp on the turbo was 8 metric. It is not, it is 7 metric. I apologize for that. We're going to go after these 8 bolts here. Again, there's nothing really neat to show you here other than just make sure that you have various extensions on hand. A universal makes for a very nice thing to have in this portion to get these out. All right, we're gonna go ahead and bring your upper and your lower intake out. I really like to have another set of hands to hold the dipstick, because if you don't, the dipstick, as the plenum comes by it scratches the thing and it just drives me crazy. So let's just go ahead. We've got all of our bolts out, save for one, the very back left corner one on the plenum, on the upper intake plenum. I just leave it in there because it wants to fight you. So you want to make sure, remember again, make sure that you've got it loosened up at the turbo. So I'll kind of work the bottom lower plenum here. And then once everything I know is free, I'll start bringing it all out as I hold it. That is, on the lower ear. What I'm going to do, JT's, I'm just going to bring it your way. There it is. Okay, now we're coming out. So here is this whole gommed up mess as she stands on the 2021 trucks. So this is your upper plenum and then your lower plenum there. All right, so after you have everything cleared out of the engine valley, your upper and lower intake manifold off, you're going after your FCA. So there's a couple different things we're going to show you here, and we're going to unhook that air line because it's leaking. When you take your FCA out of here, there could be a stopping point here. So when you bring the FCA out, if you see metal fragments on it or shrapnel on it, you're going to have to stop at that point right there, because that means that these metal particles are introduced into the injection system, and then at that point you're looking at changing out the injectors, You still want to be able to, You're still going to need to be able to treat this as a CP4 failure and conduct yourself accordingly and make your repairs accordingly. Change the low side, high side lines and injectors and CP4 pump. Now, we're going to hope for you, our customers, that this is not going to happen to you. But if you pull the FCA out and you see that metal debris on it, that is going to be a stopping point for you. Still want to do your CP4 conversion kit or bypass kit, but at that point it's different. So, all that said, now let's go ahead and remove our FCA. There are two T25 Torx heads that hold this into the CP4 pump and then an electrical connector on top of it. Before you remove it, you want to clean all the debris away from the CP4 pump. And we'll do that real quick here for you. We're just making sure that there's nothing that can be introduced into the pump by doing this. And if you have large debris in your engine valley, make sure you get those out. And then we'll go ahead and remove the two T25s, as I'm not going to try not to stay in your way with my hands so you can actually see coming out. My director, Mr. DeVille, over there says we're okay for the shot. Long T25 here is what you want. This is a little ratcheting setup that we've got here that it's actually knurled, so it makes it easy to pull the screws out as well. Just like so. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take the back screw out, get it out of the way. Then we'll undo our electrical connector. Electrical connector's just got a safety slide on it, so you push the slide back like so, and then push down, and then pull the connector away from the FCA, just like so. At this point, it's kind of a little juggling act. So you want to bring the FCA straight up. You don't want to compromise the O-rings on it. If you do, if you pinch those, you're going to have pressure problems when you reinstall, so you want to try to work as vertically as you can to pull the FCA out of the pump, like so, and bring it straight out. I leave the forward bolt in because that gives me the ability to just kind of pull it out there. So what I was talking about, looking for debris here, the end of your FCA around this screen. If you see any debris here, this is a stopping point for you, and you want to treat this as a CP4 failure. So over to the bench we go to assemble it to our S&S Motorsports CP4 bypass kit. So now what we want to do is we want to talk you through assembling the FCA to the bypass block, and then our bag of ancillary parts that S&S sends you in the kit for the assembly of these parts. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to show you cleaning out the bypass block line. The bypass block line comes with dust caps already in it, but you can get a contaminant or a little piece of debris or something that goes down in that end of it. So you just want to make sure that everything gets blown out and cleaned out before you assemble it back to the truck. So we just take compressed air, you know, and I'm not going to center on this, just compressed air, and just watch your O-rings inside the fittings, blow everything out, both sides, clean everything out of the cup here where the FCA goes, and there you go. So after you do that, you want to make sure that you put your dust caps back in to the ends like so. Oop, got them backwards. Look at that. Two different sizes. Okay, so now our FCA that came out of the truck, we're going to go ahead and take our bag of ancillary parts. And first off, you have a separate bag in here that has the fuel filter head fittings as well as the O-rings for the bypass block itself. All right, so in this, I'll go ahead and show you those fittings and what's in this bag. There are 3 black O-rings in this bag. Now, the 3 O-rings are actually the same size. So as you can see, 2 of these O-rings are going to be used to go on the filter head fittings, which we're going to go ahead and do that right now and just get that out of our way. I like to just take them, put them back in the bag like so. Now we're going to pan over to our FCA portion here. We're going to go ahead and lay those on the table. So when we are installing our O-rings, these are exactly the same style as what came off of the truck on the FCA. So this is your stock FCA O-ring, and then the O-ring there that's on the FCA itself. Okay, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be placing the large blue O-ring on the inside, and then it just works into that recess right there. You can see there's a recess around the bypass block. Then next you take your next black O-ring and it goes in that recess right here on the end, and just roll it over as gently as you can. Now you want to lubricate that with some clean diesel fuel before you put it back on the truck, but there you are. So now what we do is we'll turn our bypass block up. Sorry that your S&S symbol is downwards. Adam's going to help me. Then we're going to reinsert our FCA back into the metering block. Check it one more time, make sure there's no debris in there. Looks good. Your electrical portion of that will point away from your supply hose, and again, you want to be working straight on with our FCA. And we want to seat that just like so. Now you'll be looking around that to make sure that it is seated as well as you can get it. And seating that, you don't want to draw that down with your bolts. You want to make sure that you seat it into the supply block just like that. Okay. Now, inside of our kit, we have the 2 bolts that are extended length. These are actually going to be Allen head that will hold the bypass block to the CP4 pump, just like so. So there's those 2 pieces of hardware. They're the only 2 short Allen bolts in the bag. So now we have everything we need, and we are ready to install this back onto our CP4 pump. All right, now it's time to put our S&S block and our metering valve in. So we're going to show you how to do that. Adam's going to kind of get adjusted here down on the CP4 pump. As you can see, this O-ring here has got legs all the way around it. That is supposed to hold it to the body of what would have been the metering valve. But it's holding it to the body of the block here. So just want to make mention that if you're going to have a tendency while you're fooling with this, that you're going to want to make sure that the metering valve is seated down. If you do that, make sure that you don't grab that O-ring and pinch it with your hands while you're pushing down the O-ring. It's just something I noticed myself doing in natural motion here. So you just really want to make sure that you don't do that. So here we go. I'll have to get off the top side creeper here and then try to adjust around the angle. Where this block has your supply line has got the clamp to the back here. If yours is like that, what we suggest doing is just kind of turning the electrical connector, or pointing the electrical connector portion of the metering valve down, and then that is how you will bring the metering block to the CP4 pump, and then just rolling it to seat it once you get there. All right. And then you're also paying special attention to the to all of your alignments here. And I'm confident in that, so I'm going to go ahead and just push ever so gently on the block to seat everything into the CP4 pump. I think we are home. I want to go ahead and go with that. So we'll go ahead and install our 2 Allen headed. These are 4 metric bolts. Right here. You can kind of see how that fell down there. Okay, let me get this back bolt in and I'll move it. All right. And our back bolt is in. And okay, I'm confident in that. So again, this is a 4 metric Allen head, and what I want to do is, because obviously this is an aluminum block pump, I want to go ahead and start the bolts, and then I want to alternate back and forth with them. A long 4 is going to be your friend here. So all I'm doing there is I'm just working back and forth, just tighten it down just a little bit as I go. And this is a long 4 metric, and just barely have enough clearance to go back and forth between the 2. But once you're seated, you're pretty well going to be where you want to be there. So I do not suggest doing this with a ball head Allen, and a lot of people will want to try to do that because of the little bit of a clearance issue that you've got right here with the coolant crossover. Don't do that. You run the risk of stripping out the head of these bolts. So we're ready to go here. We're going to go ahead and torque these down to 60 inch-pounds. Again, that's 60 inch-pounds we're looking for here, which is not much. Okay. All right. Then just go ahead and reinstall your connector like so, and push your clip in. So what we're working on now is, after you get your bypass block in, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing the low side fuel line. This is for our 2020 and up customers. So our low side fuel line that normally would feed the belly of the CP4 or the bottom of CP4, we're still going to have fuel flow to the CP4, but we're going to use the fuel supply coming from the S&S bypass kit. So you can see that this is split off or branched off. And what's going to happen there is you're going to have one line of this is going to supply fuel to the bottom of the pump. The other line is going to have fresh fuel coming from the filter that will be supplying the metering valve. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that line out of our way, and we have our crankcase filter on the truck, and this crankcase filter tube is very it's plastic, so it can get burnt here. But to remove this fuel line on the 2020 and ups, we're going to have to heat this and get this pliable to where we can pull the line off here. And then you can see it's in very close proximity to the crankcase filter. So if you have that, here's what I suggest doing. Take a welding glove, you've got one around your shop I'm sure, and just go ahead and wrap the lower hose on it around there, just like so. Okay, and then what I do is I just take a long zip tie, and what this does is I can hold the glove to the crankcase line and keep it out of my way during the heating process. And then the glove, of course, protects the crankcase filter hose as well. So that'll kind of keep it up and out of our way, but give us access to the line, and also just like so. So this is the portion that we're going to be heating. I think Adam's going to try to take a stab at maybe catching this on camera for us. How's it look over there, Adam?
Your left hand's out of the way, we're fine.
You good? Okay. One of these little micro butane torches is what we feel comfortable doing this with. So gets hot pretty fast. So we're going to heat the line. If you've got any fuel or anything here, you want to make sure that you have moved it. You can try to start moving it with your hands. I doubt you'll be able to. Have pliers ready, which I did not. I got that pretty pliable pretty quick. Okay, that's already got it moving. All right. Leave the pliers right there. What that actually does is that little butane torch right there will just about get you where it can get hot enough to start pulling that sheathing off here. All I'm doing is just trying to get it rocking. And you guys that have done this job before, you know what we're up against right here when we're trying to protect that CCV line while doing this. All right. Adam, I think we'll have to, probably gonna need to do just a little bit of cursing here. So of course, you at-home viewers, we won't subject you to that. But what we're gonna do is we'll cut back in here as soon as I get it moving, because it's just gonna take a little bit more heat around this back side of it right here just to get her moving, which I think ain't that big a deal. I'm just not gonna make you suffer through it. So we'll come back just as soon as we've got her in a good pull and pulling off. All right, so you can see here, and I want to talk about why we use the torch here and why we didn't just cut this. You don't want to cut this, and because you don't want to gouge. There's two flares on this pipe, okay? You don't want to gouge either one of those flares and then have a rough surface on the pipe to be able to cut through your line. So what we wound up doing was we just put a little bit of heat to it, and then I just kept pressing around it and just kind of peeling it off with my fingers. I did use a box cutter on the high side of this while it was really good and hot, and just kind of glided through it, put no pressure, and let the knife do the work. And then it just eventually, you've got everything there you need to cut it off. So have some towels underneath there ready to catch the residual fuel, which we have done. And there you are. And again, you want a surface on this line, this low side delivery line, with no gouges, no nothing. You pull a rag across it, it shouldn't drag on anything on there, so you're good to go. So now we are ready to install our nipple here for our S&S line to hook to. All right, while we've got the GoPro out here, nice little overhead shot of the S&S CP4 bypass block. We've got the hose routed over here and out of our way. So now what we're working on is the low side supply line, and then we've got our factory fuel line removed from this, and we're going to go ahead and install the S&S low side quick connect fuel line right here. You want to make sure when you install this that you get the low side line across obviously both of these bevels, and then you will clamp it behind the second bevel here. Really don't need to do a whole lot here. We just wanted to show you line going on, and then kind of what you're looking at for positioning of your clamp. So I know I've got it far enough past here, and I've got my clamp already on the line, and I will move that into position and clamp that down. You don't need to see me do that worm drive clamp. Everybody can operate one. So we're going to bring this up and clamp this down. There is your low side S&S line. We'll turn it to where the logo is facing up. Whoa, look at that. All right. Okay, so we've got our S&S low side fuel line here, and I'm going to show you routing on this. So at our Y junction here, this is going to supply low side fuel again, both to the pump, lower portion of the pump directly, and then this side is going to be feeding filtered fuel to the metering block. But we want to go ahead and attach our side that is going to the lower end of the pump, and just go ahead and work on our pump routing. So you want to remove your plug here, and then go ahead and attach it onto the little S&S portion that you just installed down on the low side feed line. Then you just want to get everything lined up for your fuel filter as it goes, so you can see that everything gets back there just like so. Pull the camera back just a little bit, Adam, show them that. There it is, there's all three connections right there. Okay, now one more thing that S&S includes in the kit is they include these really, really cool zip ties that actually have hose holders on them, so you can route the hose. The only one that you can install right now is the one at your filler neck, if you so choose to do it. This is, super easy. Just put the zip tie on, put it around the filler neck, and zip tie it, cut the tag end off of it, and like so, go underneath of it there, and then your line will clip right into that, just like so, and then that keeps your line routed the way you want it to. So that's a really, really nice touch on the kit that S&S sends for you. So we're good to go right there. There will be another clip that we'll be able to add to guide it onto this line as well, but I'm gonna wait till we get our lower intake manifold in and get that one on. So yeah, that's got our low side fuel lines lined up and ready to go, ready to reinstall our fuel bowl. Okay, so here is our return line kit that comes in your S&S CP4 bypass kit. Now, what we want to do now is we want to go ahead and get our lines installed before you start putting your fuel filter and everything on, because it just makes it easier to get to, so I definitely suggest those. You have a male and a female return line, and then a female and a female return line, which is this one, so we're going to go ahead and install those now. This is one of the fuel line from Ford that has the white plastic clips on it. So what we do with those is we just push the plastic up, we pinch it at the bottom like so, and then push it forward to release, just like that. And then you want to have a towel handy to catch residual fuel, and then go ahead and remove it from the line, pull straight up. So we're good to go there. So then once you've done that, you will need to turn the factory line, the factory connector inside of the line to where it is facing upwards. And it doesn't take very much persuasion to do that. You just need to get it going, I said upwards, and it's actually kind of moving forward there just a little bit like so. So this will be your fuel return that'll be going to the tank. So now what we do is we go ahead and disengage the lock that I pushed back with my hands there, and you want to go ahead and insert the portion with the S&S line, blow through it, make sure all the contaminants are out, and then go ahead and install the line here and hit it with the quick lock or the quick connect like so. And then you may have to turn it where it's going to go onto the return fuel filter head, which will be oriented in this area over here somewhere. And then on the factory side, you're going to want to run underneath of the CCV line, I believe is probably going to be the best way to do it. And you want to connect on this one, I'm sorry, don't run on the CCV line, it'll go forward here. The black connectors, you have black on one end, blue. Blue is always going to go to the return filter head. So we're going to go ahead and put the black end on to the factory side. And this is the return fuel from the engine that will go through the factory, or through the S&S filter like so, which will be oriented in here. So yeah, the blue connectors on both the return lines, these are what go to the filter head assembly. So that's the way we've got it, and that's got your fuel filter lines ready. So now next portion for us is, clean up the residual fuel again. You're in pretty good shape right there. We don't want to chafe those wires, so whatever works best for you as far as where the wires or where the fuel lines need to be, that's what you need to go with. This, for me, this looks like it's going to be the best route. So again, you know, your routing is critical because you don't want to have a bunch of rub through the line and have fuel leaks. So I think we're going to be okay there. I'll keep looking at that. I keep looking at that, saying, yeah. If that's not going to work, I'll cut back in and let you know. So we're going to keep moving forward here and show you how to assemble your return line filter.
All right, we're going to show you putting together the S&S Motorsports fuel filter return filter head. So first thing that we want to do is we're going to put our quick connect fittings on either side here. You want to blow these out, make sure they're clean, make sure you don't have any debris in them that will get introduced into the filter. And these are 15 metrics, so just snug them down, and they are O-ring fittings, so you don't have to get super crazy with these. And it's an aluminum block, so you really don't want to get too crazy, so snug is good. All right, and then on the filter heads itself, that we're going to want to put these two rubber isolators that are included in the kit. You just want to screw those into the back of the fuel filter assembly. So now these instructions, as we're showing you here, this is for the I guess we'll say the 2017 and up trucks. I believe that's correct. We'll put the rubber isolators on here, just like so. And then the bracket that actually holds the filter head assembly goes with the
the tab facing upwards here, and then go ahead and put both of these nuts on there. They can be tightened down with 7/16. Like so. Okay, so with that, now you'll have a couple of different pieces of hardware that'll also be in the bag there. Oh, turn it right the right way, Wade. Come on now. Make sure we get the logo out there. You'll have a couple different pairs of hardware, the spacer and the long bolt and the washer. That is for the 2017 and up trucks, and we're going to show you that. But for the earlier models, you'll have the shorter bolt that'll be captured with the lock nut. You'll still want to use this lock nut on the bolt that we're getting ready to use. So I don't put my filter on it just yet. I'll put it on when it gets in the truck, and I check all my clearances and stuff. So that's how you assemble the filter head and get it ready for installation in the truck. All right, on the 2017 and plus models, we're going to be lifting up this upper cowl cover here, and easiest way to get it is just go through. There's 3 clips here, 1, 2, 3. You just pop those out from the bottom. Be careful here. Don't get overzealous. It don't take much. There's the third one is over here, and you can kind of lift that up. And then right here, right between the master cylinder and these fuel lines that you were working on before, there's a pop clip for the lower cowl cover. And what we do is we just pop the center of it up so that we can remove it from the hole, like so. And it's going to get tree pollen everywhere, of course. Okay, then you just get the center out of there. Yep, move my hand. It says Mr. DeVille. So this is our access hole for our bolt. We won't be using the plastic pins anymore, but keep those for a rainy day, kids, because if you're going to build a hoard pile, right now is the time to start. You know what? Any day is the time to start yourself a really, really good hoard of parts. So, all right. Whoa. Hoard, H-O-R-D-E, about filling the motor. Topside creeper coming apart. Anybody that's watched any of our videos and y'all joke all the time, I'm buying Wade a new topside creeper, you can send that to 4843 Rockwell Road, Winchester, Kentucky, 40391, and we thank you for your support. The long bolt, flat fender washer, spacer, and lock nut is what we're going to be using here, like we talked about out on the bench. And what you'll want here is just the long bolt and the big flat fender washer. And this should raise just enough to give you access to where that can fall straight through right there. Then, like I said, just go ahead and get your filter head. It's already got the bracket on it. Just like so. And then you will actually, excuse me, we put our spacer on first, like so. Then we put our filter head on, like so. And then our lock nut on the bottom of that. Now this is a 4 metric Allen head, so you can tighten that up at this point. Just put your Allen head on the top there and just a deep well socket and go ahead and tighten that up. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, so just kind of explain direction of flow on this. So this is going to have fuel flow that flows from the driver's side to the passenger side. Now our return fuel coming from the system is the hard line that has the 2 females. Is the hard line on the truck and then the S&S line with the 2 females. So what you're going to want to do with this return line is you're actually going to want to orient this back towards the back. And then that line is going to wrap around and it's going to wrap behind the filter. I'll try to do this without getting my hands in the way. Like so. And then this line will snap to the driver's side of the return fuel filter head and then close the clips So this gives you perfect access to the master cylinder, brake master cylinder cap, so not in your way at all, so everything looks good there. Okay, we're going to install the S&S fuel line that is going to take fuel from the S&S filter head and deliver it to the tank. So what we've found to be the best routing to keep this out of everything's way is to run it in this kind of triangle right by the degas bottle. Run your mail in down through there, like so. And I'm gonna try not to put my hands in the way, and then bring it back to your factory return line that takes the fuel back to the tank. Insert your male end like so. Push it till it clips, then bring your lock down, and I'll let Adam kind of pan out, and then we're just going to show you. You can turn that and take it right straight to the filter head, then lock your clip down. And then what that does is once this line comes around to hook to the fuel filter, this keeps everything straight, and none of the metal sections are touching the line, so we don't have to worry about them rubbing a hole through any of those. This also gives us enough space to get our fuel filter in here, so we are good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some pictures of the setup here. We're going to reinstall our fuel filter housing. We're going to hook everything back up for just a quick minute, take some pictures, but we're going to cut back in and show you just routing of everything while the intake plenum's off, so you can see it real nice and clean. All right, so what we did was we reinstalled the fuel bowl here, and we wanted to just give everybody a good clean view of what the setup was, how the fuel routes and everything. Then we'll take the fuel bowl back off, we'll put the upper and lower intake back on. So everything that you see here, again, is just for being able to show you routing. So you still have, you know, fuel inlet from the tank, and then pressure side to the injectors, and then this is fuel supply to what was originally the original routing of fuel supply for the CP4. I can't talk today. So with the S&S kit, we have branched this off fuel supply. We are now getting fuel supply going to the original entrance to the pump and the belly of it, like we said, but we also have fuel supply going to the metering valve and the S&S block here on the CP4. So that is your delivery portion of the CP4 bypass kit. Return side. Now we have return fuel. The original return fuel was coming from this return rail right here, went straight back to the tank. We branched off of that. We now have S&S's bypass kit, brings return fuel coming from the fuel line into the filter head, filtered, and then back out into the tank. So debris coming from the pump is getting filtered before going back to the tank. Supply fuel from the tank is getting filtered before returning to the pump. So that is the entire circle as it stands for CP4 supply and the CP4 bypass. So we just wanted to show you everything here, our routing. One thing that we mentioned that we hadn't done yet was put your cowl back together. You just snap that back into place and make sure that you've got your backside in place, and then you're good to go there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and remove the fuel bowl again. This was just for just to show you all what's going on, and then we'll go ahead and begin replacing our intakes. Time to put the lower and upper intake manifolds on. When you removed your lower intake manifold, you will notice that this, more than likely, this rubber gasket came or stayed on the turbo. You'll need to put it back into the lower intake before you put the lower intake on. And when you're putting it on the lower intake, there are tabs for alignment here. So if you don't get it aligned and you don't get it set on the lower intake manifold correctly, it's just not going to seal correct. So you just got to kind of go around and keep pushing that O-ring on. And remember, when we took the lower intake off, orientation of the clamp too. There's another thing, you don't want to get inside of here and have to fool with it. You want the orientation of that clamp up. It's kind of got a little keeper here that it rests in on the lower intake manifold, so that's good. And I just kind of sit that in position and then take my upper intake manifold and try not to get it caught on a bunch of crap. We just kind of pair them up together the way they go, and as well as you can do that, it makes it that much easier going back in. I suggest putting the long bolts on the back of the upper intake manifold and just kind of guiding all of this conglomeration of crap right back in the truck, like so. And then you're working to keep the dipstick out of your way, and then guide your lower manifold in as well. And then just continue to work. So once you get the lower intake manifold down there, you're just getting it into position onto the turbo correctly. And then your upper at this point should be pretty well below the cowl. You've got your 2 long bolts. I left the 2 long bolts in the back in the intake manifold. So what you want to do is just take your dipstick here and kind of get it going out of the way. Raise those 2 bolts up. Make sure they're clearing everything, just like so. And voila, you have your upper intake in. So that's the best way I know how to tell you to do it. Probably going to have a couple tries where you don't get it just exactly, but don't give up on it. You just got to keep moving it and working. So, you know, if you get hot, you get pissed off like I do most of the time when I'm working on a Ford, you just got to kind of step back and catch your breath and try it again. So we're going to go ahead and get our bolts installed here. Just remember, you're looking at, you know, as you're putting your bolts in here, you know, your tall standards will get the long bolts, short standards get the short bolts. You got to make sure that you get your studs in where they go. So we'll get everything lined up here, and then we'll come back and kind of give you the best look at these bolt positions that we can. So now we've got our intake plenum on. I'm going to show you bolt positioning. I want to go ahead and drop these forward bolts in. There's one more really super long bolt to be left in your tray that goes on the front of the upper intake manifold. Then you've got your 2 I think these are 10 metric headed bolts that hold the upper intake or lower intake manifold, I'm sorry, on. And you want to just make sure you get them lined up correctly. This will be a play of these 2 bolts just working the manifold back and forth, but also making sure that your clamp is on at the turbo. All right, so we've got those going. Okay, so, and then the clamp at the turbo, which is your 4 metric, or I'm sorry, 1/4 inch clamp, you'll tighten it down, but make sure that it's facing up, so you've always got you got contact with it. So I'm going to show you bolt positioning on the intake now. So you've got normal headed bolt, long bolt here on the front. Then you've got your studded short that is on the at this position here. Then those are both regular headed at the back, one short, one long. And then on the driver's side, you have your long studded one that holds your dipstick. Then short regular headed, and then another short regular headed on the back, and then a long regular headed on the back. So that's pretty cut and dry. Torque on these are going to be 89 inch-pounds on the upper intake manifold for your first step, and then take it 98 degrees, and then take it to 18 foot-pounds on those. And then on the these 2 bolts that hold the lower intake manifold, these are 31 inch-pounds on, or 31 inch-pounds here. I believe the same here on the front. The one thing I want to say to you on this is just, again, make sure that you tighten your bolts in a crisscross pattern so you can get that sealed down correctly. And then you want to make sure that you don't forget to hook your closed crankcase line up there. And then S&S sends another zip tie clamp that will hold this hose, and we're going to put that on the this crankcase line as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get these bolts torqued down and everything and crisscross pattern, then we'll come back and show you your next step. All right, you wanna go ahead and hook your sensor on top of the plenum back in, and then push the block. And once I do it, then I take my the guide for this wire that goes on the stud on the front passenger side bolt. We get it on, then we get that wiring harness off the top of the EB sensor there and just get everything where it's in a good spot. Then you have your shield here for the sensor, and put it on. You've got your two small 8 metric headed bolts here, and we'll just install those and kind of snug them down, and then that's pretty well got us on the plenum side of or on the passenger side of the plenum done. Yeah. All right, now we want to go ahead and get our dipstick secured back. So the dipstick, just pull it straight up and then pull it towards you, and it'll sit over that stud. And go ahead and throw the nut on the stud, and then you've got a bolt that goes in the back here that attaches it to the plenum. It goes in kind of at a 45-degree angle. So we'll install those two bolts, or bolt and the nut, and tighten them up. We want to go ahead and install our EGR pipe here, and I got to thinking about this and I realized one of the easiest ways to do this is to leave your upper intake manifold loose and then install the EGR pipe, and then everything will line up. Look, we got really lucky with this truck. It's lining up fine, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're gonna put our bolts in on this side. Remember, there's two top and bottom 8 metric heads on them here, and then we will install the 2 for the plenum side of it. And as soon as I started filming, I realized that I had misplaced those bolts, so I'm not gonna make you suffer through me looking for them, but just, oh, hey, we're there, found them. Make sure your gaskets are still here, and again, install the 2 bolts for the EGR crossover pipe, such as so. And then your temp sensor wire. The temp sensor wire has a guide here on the lower intake manifold that it lays into, just like so, and then hooks up at your electrical connector right here at the bottom, and push it till it clicks, and then push your safety slide up, and you're good to go. So we'll go ahead and tighten our EGR crossover bolts in and head on to the other side. All right, on our fuel bowl, we want to make sure that we leave this front bolt in. There is a fuel line there that it just, when you insert it, trust me, you want to leave it in there. And then we will go ahead and insert the fuel bowl canister. Let's hold our fuel filter. The best way to look for orientation on this is your injector line hold down is on this side of the canister. Sorry, Adam. Is right here, so you just want to know that that's where your orientation is and that's where you're headed with it. So, I'm trying to get to the line. Now I'm holding the bolt up as I pull it into place like so. And then just kind of sneak your line up if you can, and turn, and it'll fall into place there. So you got to kind of just grab it and growl your injector, your low side supply line. You want to make sure that you, number one, don't get too crazy with pulling on it, but you just need to make sure that you get yourself enough room there to be able to get to the bolt. Looks like we're good. So we will take our metric 8 on a short extension, just like so. And again, we'll pull that line up clear of it, and then we'll put Put our socket and extension on it. Hold the line rigid and run our bolt down to a good depth where it's clear the lines, and then we're safe there. So now we'll throw our other 2 bolts in, our other 2 long bolts, and then the short bolt that actually holds the injector line down, that's the last one we put in. Don't forget about your bolt that goes back here in the back, like so. And then our last one that we put in is a one that'll hold the injector lines down, but we want to get all these in and tight before we go after the one for the injector line. So we're going to do that now. All right, now time to reinstall your fuel filter. If you're due for a change, this is a good time to change one. So just let everything come around here just like normal. Make sure you set your clips for installation as usual. I don't know why that is fighting me. Alright, and we'll get our S&S line on, and then our injector line. And there you go. Now is a good time to look at your routings and make sure you don't have anything rubbing on this side of it. We're good to go everywhere. Make sure you got all of your safety clips locked on. I went ahead and screwed on our fuel filter on the S&S. You've got on the S&S filter head, you've got room to get it in there. So all of that looks good. Nothing's in a bind. We are clear to proceed. And one thing I want to talk about there is there's another clamp that comes with this, and it is for this line to keep this line up and keeps it away from that lower bolt down there. So we'll go ahead and install that right now as well. All right, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our intercooler pipe here. Remember, before you go back in, make sure that your clamp at the turbo side is up and ready to be installed. So you just want to push it forward onto the turbo, and then you can get enough slack in the hose down here to hook up your water to air. Then make sure that you remember to trip your clamps for your hose and pull them back and forth. Make sure everything's good to go. Then you just simply take your 7 metric and tighten up your clamp at the air to water intercooler. We're gonna go ahead and install our throttle valve. Make sure that you've got your gasket on the throttle valve itself. As you're kind of going in here, just easier just to hook your electrical connector up and then hit your clip on it and then kind of scoot everything by and then install your bolts on the throttle valve. All right, and then got them all started. Low mileage truck here again, so it'd be, you know, we really didn't need to, but if you're a high mileage truck, it's a good idea to clean the throttle valve as best you can. You know, just one more thing to not have to introduce into the intake of the motor in the interest of, yeah, just a good time to clean your throttle valve. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten this down, crisscross pattern, and we'll come back and do, looks like vacuum lines next. All right, we want to go ahead and install our cold side intercooler pipe now. This goes down on our water to air, our very lower connection, and I don't make my connection up top till I get everything on the bottom side of it on and good. It's just like so. Then top side, just go ahead and push it up. Then you want to get your clamps, your spring clamp here, and move it back towards your front, just like so. Then turn it until everybody falls in place. Pull back, make sure you're engaged. Good to go. Put your electrical connector on, like so. Put the push pin back in. Then don't forget to tighten up your 7 metric down here, long extension on 1/4 inch drive and on the clamp. and you're good. So we'll tighten that up, and then we're gonna install our vacuum line. So we're gonna go ahead and put our air intake tube on, and we'll start at the air box side of it first. Seems like it's what works best. Then take it to the lower air intake, such as so. Alright, and then you tighten both of those up, and then you're ready to route your coolant line. So we're going to tighten these up and be right back. Final step is just go ahead and route our coolant line over to our degas bottle here, and you just lay it out, try to get it back into its clips as it goes along. You can look at the marks on the line and see where it's supposed to go. All the things. One thing I want to say here is, just like anything else that you work on that has an EGR on it or CCV or whatever it is, go back through with brake clean and get your paw prints off of the components, and you will thank yourself later, because you don't want a customer to come behind you and see your paw prints on the intake. Because if you work around a EGR or anything, you're going to wind up having black sooty hands just like I did. So just go back and clean up your tracks. We're just putting the clamp back on the degas bottle, and this is really our last step in the process. So you just go through here and you go over and you check all of your sensors. You make sure you check your intercooler pipes. Just hit everything with your 7 metric as you go through on your intercooler pipes. Make sure it's all tight. Air intake's tight. All of your bolts for your upper and your lower intake are in. Make sure your throttle valve is electronically connected. Make sure your temp sensor is connected. Anything else, just want to go over it really good right here. So now we'll show you startup procedure for the truck. Got your batteries back on, you're ready to bleed this out. You want to treat your bleeding procedure here just like as if you had changed your fuel filter. You just want to go in, key on, turn your cell phone off before you start videoing. Don't act like it's your first day on the job. But key on, let the lift pump run its cycle. I do it 2 or 3 times and then just come back out and look for leaks. You can hear the lift pump running there. Vacuum. Looks good so far. That, let it run another cycle, and make sure you're looking down at the FCA block for fuel. Good. Now here our lift pump is filling up our fuel filter canister. We have no leaks. All is well. And I'm going to do it one more time. Looking good. Looking good, Adam, looking good. You can still hear it processing a little bit of air. And that's okay. No. All right, third time's a charm. We're gonna go ahead and start her up. Looking for leaks again here. That was strange. I was looking at that low side sensor and the way the silicone is around it. It looked like fuel was pooling up. I was like, what in the world? We don't have a leak here. So, yeah, everything looks good. We have no leaks, no check engine lights. We have a successful installation. We hope that you've learned something about your CP4 or your 6.7 Power Stroke fuel system with this, and you have confidence to be able to install this CP4 bypass kit on your truck. It's very, very important to the health of your fuel system. It's one of those things that just you need to buy. As soon as you drive the truck off the lot, I feel like you need to install this part. Now, talk about fuel filter. When do you change it? Now, S&S goes with the schedule of when Ford tells you to change the fuel filters on these trucks. So it tells you every third oil change. That's when you change your fuel filters. Just depends on how you do that. I think most guys out there are changing their oil every 5,000 miles. So every third oil change, you change all of your filters, frame one, the one on the engine, and then the S&S return filter kit too. Return filter too. So one thing that I do want to make mention of in this is a Donaldson filter and is a specific part number for this. So make sure that you don't get in a bind, can't find the Donaldson filter for whatever the reason that is, and then go with some other filter, because you want to make sure that you stay inside the Donaldson filter unless S&S comes out with a crossover fuel filter that they deem that can work with this fuel system. Because you can take something that crosses over this fuel filter, and we've already looked at this in some other brands that don't have the efficiency of this fuel filter. So if you do have a CP4 catastrophic failure, you could actually have particles that make it to the tank, and you don't want that. So stay with the Donaldson if you can get the Donaldson. If we come out with a filter that is equivalent and will work in place of it, we'll let you know as per what S&S tells us on that. So again, thank you for watching. We're going to link you in this video where you can purchase the CP4 bypass kit from S&S Diesel Motorsports. If you have any questions about this installation or any S&S products, please give us a call. We'll ask you to like and subscribe to our channel. I don't know why I can't get through this closing without fumbling over my words, but we really appreciate you watching our video.